Good morning, everybody, and thanks for coming to this third appointment with what is more contemporary than contemporary, a project that has been conceived by the School for Curatorial Studies, Venice, and today the guest of our morning is the Belgian curator Alain Servais, which is going to be introduced by Sandro. Please, Sandro, go and see. Thank you for being with us, by the way.
So we are very happy to have with us today Alain Servais, who's a Belgian collector, who is also, he worked at Wall Street, he's still working at Wall Street, and he started collecting art in the late 1990s, beginning with photography and collecting, I think, first copies of photographs you saw in the museums. And I think you like the idea to have these copies then in your collection, the things that you have seen in museums. And his collection is now formed mostly by new media, video art, photography, computer-based art, but includes also some sculpture and some paintings. For example, Bjarne Malgard, I've seen you have in your collection. And he actively is publishing on Twitter because he's an advocate of the arts. I would also almost say an activist of the arts. And yes, he's traveling a lot. He's going to many art fairs, many biennials, I think 15 a year, more or less, 10. And what I respect the most is that he goes then, when he goes to the fairs, really to the booth where young galleries are also showing young artists, and he talks to the gallerists, he's talking to the artists if he's present. He's really interested in emerging art, which is also a characteristic of his collecting practice. In 2000, he acquired a 900-foot square factory in a working class neighborhood in Brussels, and then transformed it in a 3-floor loft museum where he lived till you're not living anymore there. 2010, and it's now also an artist residency. It's a place in Brussels where people can visit the collection. And yes, he's known also that he wants to introduce some responsible rules of conduct in the art markets. And he's highlighting the educational and political value of art, and I think also the value of collaboration and sharing art. And please, Alain.
Never believe what they say on television or in the press. So thank you very much for being back again. We're introducing ourselves, we know each other now. So I'd like to start a little bit, I like to sleep on new things, so I'd like to start maybe with some of the ideas we talked about yesterday and that are coming back to you, or I hope they didn't make you not sleep, but that kind of raised some thoughts from you yesterday. So if anyone wants to say something, anything, nothing important, nothing explanation, what do you remember from yesterday? No, nothing?
There must be a point that
yes, the art
sure.
market represents what the packed food represents for the United States. So that's what it represents for the world in 1 year.
Yeah.
Also what stuck with me mostly was your approach to collecting, and especially the last example that you showed us with the website that you sort of acquired and then like you collected but for the public in a sense. So that I thought was quite an original way to look at collecting, because usually it's, you think about collectors and them just collecting and preserving the work for them, but here you're collecting and preserving something for the public. So
I think that's very important, particularly for you, because I will not change the way it was before and the way it is still now very much. I'll give you an example. One of the things that irritates me the most in the current art market is that when you buy a video, I mean, on my Twitter account, there's an article, a long article of 13 pages explaining the whole functioning of the video art market. And I think it's very important if you're interested in the subject. But what is very clear is that when you buy a video right now, just, okay, I say, I like this video, I buy it. It is the same as if you were buying a DVD of Titanic or anything else. And maybe you're aware of it, or maybe you're not aware of it, but when you buy a DVD now to watch home, you have the permission to watch it home. In the circle of the family, this is the legal definition, and you cannot reproduce it. That's the two main elements of it. So you just have the right to watch it. It's the same with videos that you acquire, even not for 25 euro, 10 euro, or 3 euro, but even for 100,000 euro. I repeat, 100,000 euro. So it's the same thing right now. As long as there is no transfer, the only way to transfer is to transfer right through a contract. You know enough about Solewit, and you know Solewit the way that the work is represented by a certificate. So you have the right to reproduce the works on the walls according to certain rules, and there are assistants coming to do it. But you don't have the certificate, you have nothing anymore. There was even the case in a few years ago where a gallery lost the certificate, and they had to pay $240,000 as a compensation because the work was considered lost. So in the same way, in videos you need to go through a contract. The only value that you have in this is the contract, the transfer of rights, which is the right to transfer the display. That means that for example, I have the case next week. I own the work of William Kentridge, and a few years ago, a museum came to us to borrow me, like they borrow my sculptures, my photograph, my anything. And I said, okay. But just before the exhibition started, someone came knocking on the door and said, okay, sorry, but to exhibit this work, you need to pay 500 euro per day, which is a viewing right. Okay? The same way as you would do with the Titanic. You want to show it at your school, you need to pay something as a copyright. So I was very surprised. So next week, someone again asked me to do this, and I said, you're aware that I have no right to show it publicly. But I don't care. That means that the artist could sue me and ask me for, the artist or the representative could sue me and try to get money out of me. But I said, no. I mean, I take the risk that they sue me. But actually, the only way, and now the way I do it is I have a contract. So when I buy a video, it is the contract. But what is really pissing me off the most is that the gallery keeps telling me, and you see the USB key and the DVD, they come with a nice little box that the artist did himself, painted, covered with silver and everything. Because people are still obsessed with the object. And that's the big thing that is evolving for your generation, and that's the thing as well. With of course, the website is an extreme, because I have nothing but a contract with that for that website, and that's the ownership of. But still, even for videos, which is similar, galleries still insisting in getting you a box, which is for me kind of an insult to my intelligence, which is something I've paid for very often. So it's very important to realize that all the digital medium, whether it's DVD, websites, I will show you some other works from the collection in digital arts, and they are ruled by rights, so they are ruled by contract. The ownership is only contract, and you must be very aware of that. Whether showing it, whether representing it, whether helping an artist, the best service you can give them is to make them aware of that. In France, of course, there is a massive Gestapo of the rights, extremely aggressive. What's it called? ADA, what is it called? ADAC. attack attack. So you better not be in there in the targets. Any other memory? Yes.
And also you said that you were collecting ideas instead of the artworks. So
Yes, I think it is for you to position yourself. Again, we speak about art, so it is for you. I mean, for me, when the art is an object, it is a luxury good. It's like I love beautiful bags, I love fashion, I love Gucci dresses, not for me, but for but it's still an object, and it's very important for you to play with those notions. Another example is sometimes I see people, you know, you're somewhere here, or you even go to the glass place, what do you call it? Murano. And you see guys doing amazing things. And some people, particularly in this hotel, was mostly catering to Americans coming from the cruise and leaving back to the cruise, which means not knowing too much about anything. They say, wow, this is art. So what is, in your opinion, the difference between craftsmanship and art?
Ideas and concepts.
So I don't collect craft, I collect art, so I collect ideas. Is it logical?
yes. And you said also that sometimes you have to release between brackets your own self, so mainly your emotions, in order to be a collector and to buy some artworks. Because you said that sometimes in the process, strong feelings and violence enter in order to let the feelings decide of the buying of the artwork. So.
What was the release
of your inner self?
When I'm acquiring the works, or when I'm thinking about acquiring?
When you are thinking about acquiring a work.
Yeah. It is quite important. I mean, I'm sure you're aware of that yourself. I mean, your moods, your feelings, the way you feel is commanding a lot of things what you're going to do. You know, whether you're going to be performing in writing an article, or preparing an exhibition, or you know, taking care of your mother or something like that. Everything is linked to it, and it's the same with acquiring art. You know, when you do that regularly, you get to know what you have to be careful with. That I realized that sometime I had a fight with my girlfriend, and I said, art, I hate it. I want to throw it in the canal and everything. But then I'm passing along very important works. And the following day I'm euphoric, and the sun is shining, I had a breakfast on the terrace of the Danieli and everything. So you say, I'm feeling well and everything's good, and suddenly you could be pushed. So it is true that collecting is a little bit of a discipline that you need to get to yourself. You need to think, why do I like this? And then we discussed about this. Why do I like this? Because as I said yesterday, there are some people buying things that they like from themselves. So I have another collector, from a friend from Switzerland, who's buying systematically black and white. Why black and white? It's just, I don't know, he feels comfortable with this vision, with this yes, aesthetic. So, but the thing is, you have to think about, why am I collecting? Because I like black and white, does it mean that? And then my rules is different. My rules is always, in a way, collecting. There's a part of me for sure, but there's also collecting for the community. Because the thing I'm trying to acquire are the works that I think deserve to be preserved for the next generation. And again, I'm just a passage, so they're with me for a while, and we spoke about it. I didn't speak about it yesterday. Now we're speaking more about collecting. Yesterday I was speaking more about arts and trying to speak to you about arts as curators. Now we're talking more about the collecting, and Sandro spoke about the fact that I'm buying a lot from museums. It's true. I love, when I started collecting, I realized, working in Wall Street, doing many things, traveling around the world, skiing extreme and doing many stuff, that I realized that I was even doing car racing, endurance car racing. So I realized that when I was stepping into a museum, suddenly I was feeling quiet. I was feeling. Again, I don't know why it's my obsession and it's horrible to live with me from that point of view, but I always ask myself why. I cannot do something without asking myself why. I said, why do I feel like this? Then I realized that sometimes when I cannot sleep at night or in the morning, one thing which is radical for me that works is that I'm turn on the radio, the news, any news radio I can get, and then I fall asleep. And you know why? Because all my problems goes away when I listening to the problems of others. Because I say, what the, it's gone. It's just going away. So I realized that maybe the museum were helping me to throw myself outside of myself and try to project myself in other people. And that's what's giving me some kind of peace or well-being in some way.
What I like is this historical dimension that comes out in your collecting practices. Because we were talking yesterday, and it appeared to be a contradiction that Alain was saying, I collect only things which I don't understand, because I feel, but where I feel they are important. So collecting something which you don't understand perfectly, but you think it's important for yourself, but also in a historical, in a future perspective. And at the same time, Alain said, I only buy things which I understand. So where I talk to the artist, which I can see the idea behind it, or maybe it immediately it immediately touches me, the work of art. So I would like to understand maybe more. There's a historical dimension in it, so how, and they have used beautiful also metaphor that you said the artist and the collector are like the same sides of the same two sides of the same coin.
What is most exciting than reading a book and you read a paragraph and you say, shit, that's exactly what I was thinking, but it's written in one paragraph in a perfect way, not a word too much, not a word too little, and it's exactly what you mean. So it's not that you wrote it yourself, but you just recognize it, and it's a little bit the same with art. That means that it's not that you understand it in the way that you could have done it, but it's there, and it's kind of revealing something which is inside you. That's what's happened with a lot of things, whether it's music, cinema, art, literature, even writing. Reading on internet. I read a lot, enormous amount of articles on internet, and I really love that feeling, and that's why in my presentation I'm using the quotes of many people, because I say, wow, they really managed to express exactly what I mean. So it happens like this, that you recognize something. I give you an examples. First of all, I'm not at all only collecting digital and videos, far from it. I started with photography. I just go back to this for 1 second, is that when I was going to museum, I was feeling well. So I said, okay, why if I could bring home some of the things I see in the museums? So I said, okay, how do you do it? Except Ocean 11 or something, or not, it was not Ocean 11, it was when they were stealing all works of art everywhere. What movie was it? With Brad Pitt and everything, Clooney. Was it Ocean?
Yeah.
But was not only in casinos, where they were stealing in Amsterdam, raising the building and everything. Anyway, it doesn't matter. So you see what I mean. So except for stealing them, how could I get them home? I said, okay, photography is a good start, because you can go in a museum, you see an exhibition of Andres Serrano, and it's edition of 5. So you can buy the same work, actually. So I said, I studied with photography because I liked the idea of buying works that I saw in museum and bring them home. So it started from there, and then it expanded. Photography is very interesting, but it's also an old medium. And again, like little tricks. I'm passing you some tricks that you can use in the future. That thing about workmanship and art is very important, because people say, oh, this jewel this is art. Then we expressed it. What's the difference is thing, and it's the same in photography. Photography exists since the 19th century, and then you have black and white, all those fantastic black and white photographer from the 20s, 30s, 40s. And then you get to what is called contemporary photography. And I said, I'm a little bit confused, because where does contemporary photography start in comparison with the documentary photographer that we see everywhere? And the rules I put myself is also relatively simple, is that what is the most important in the photography is the subject. This is classical photography. When the most important in the photograph is the artist and the treatment of the subject, then it becomes, for me, contemporary art and contemporary photography. You see the difference. So, for example, I had the case with Taryn Simon. Anybody knows Taryn Simon? Taryn Simon is a interesting American photographer, young. And the first series she was very famous with was very tough images of guys that have been released from jail on the basis of wrong eyewitness. So 10 people saw them in this bar, and this woman was killed, and so the guy's going to jail for 20 years. And it appears that, in fact, he was not guilty. So showing that, and they take the guy, like old guy, and unfortunately, as always, they're mostly African American. So, and they put him where he was supposed to have been seen 20 years before. So, and I like, of course, the idea is very strong, it's very social, it's talking about a subject, about the jail system everywhere, and particularly in the US. So I said, I really like this image. But then
sorry, so was that a link then, that's where we were talking yesterday about aesthetics versus ideas, and I was interested to hear what your initial attraction to photography was, because of course that typically is or considered something very aesthetic, but with this artist that you're describing now, this is where it becomes something more conceptual, or there's a strong sort of idea or a reason behind taking that photograph.
Yes, that's exactly what it is.
Yeah.
How do I go back to
And then what is the difference for you between documentary photography and art?
just
things?
where I was before? Just back. Full image is this. Just click here, maybe somewhere. Just show the image. Full. So you see roughly the image, okay? That's the kind of image, okay? So you have here this guy and this guy. Also, that's another series that she did, but so particularly this guy, it's the innocence. So I look at this and I love the concept behind. There's a story of the guy, and I said, okay, cool. But then I asked myself, what is the strongest? What is moving me? And again, that's the thing, is that you must. It's like resisting your favorite bakery. You want to have it, but then you say no goods. And it's a nice discipline to get. But then I asked myself, okay, what is special in the treatment? Not so much. It's a good photography, but not so much. What is really striking me is the story.
The process.
Maybe the process, I was ambiguous with this, so eventually I decided not to buy it, because despite the fact that I liked it, I was a bit, I didn't know exactly how to handle that thing. So contemporary photography is really about the idea again. When it's about the idea and not the photography itself or the techniques or the then it's easy to class what's his first name, Adams from the United States, the very famous guy doing the landscapes. Ansel Adams, yes. You see, it's fantastic, it's super well taken, but you are overtaken by the landscape and everything. Okay? So in a way, and of course it's brilliant technicity and the whole thing, but where's the concept in some way? So that's the rule I put with this. So I started with photography, and then I expanded because again you get more use, you understand better your process, and then you say, okay, what if I was doing the museum myself? That means that I buy before the museums. So I started buying other things than photography and so on. I wanted to show you some other works because you liked it. Where are the things I was showing you earlier? We're supposed to be downstairs. The one that was looking at Benagar, so yes.
Make it bigger.
Sure.
No.
Can I get the other one? So I start with this one, that's fine. So this is dating already, I think, 2002. And again, this is live. It's actually live, you see it moving while we're talking, I think. So the artists managed to hack, it's pretty obvious now, but he was saying, it's crazy that how much Google is really building our subconscious. Because Google knows more about us than we know ourselves, not about us as an individual, but us as a society. So what the artist did, he hacked Google and he took the last 10 most search images in the different countries. So you've got US, France, Germany, Italy, Spain, UK, and India. Okay. So I have that on the screen home, and every 30 seconds it's renewing, and I get the new thing. So it's called Fascinum, and it's fascinating because I know what's going on, what is the worry of the world at any point in time, right now. Again, you are a curator, so you say, okay, I know I can get this from Google. Now somewhere in Google, if you look for it, you can find it. So what's the difference with this? First of all, they're comparing different countries. And it's very interesting because suddenly you see the same face of someone in India appearing. You don't know who he is, but something is going on in India with a guy, and we don't know who he is. You cannot click to know what the story is, because the artist doesn't want it. He wants you just to see this as a window to your social subconscious. And again, this is a link to a website, because in a way, has it been changing?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So it is live. You can watch it. Except at me, I have a copy home that I can have on a larger size, and I'm owning it. But you can watch it. You can put it on you can figure out in one of your screen home, and you can have that thing, which is very nice to live, because you come back 30 minutes later, it's totally different setup, and you see the way things are. When it is done in 2002, then you say, wow, this guy is brilliant, because he's understanding something that's happening under our feet, and he's making it in a work of art, because this is a work of art. Mixing it with different countries, and it's very interesting. The artist is called Christoph Bruno. Another artist, Mexican artist, I don't have pictures here, but did something else. Is Google changed this again, but a few years ago when you were writing Mexicans are, he was coming with adjectives, many different adjectives. And those adjectives were linked to the algorithm, which was the most frequent request. So the only thing that the artist did is he was taking black plexiglass and he was writing Americans are fat, violent, la 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 la. Mexicans are lazy, fat, la 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 la. Jews are, blah, 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 blah. So everything, sorry? Yeah, everything which is kind of the subconscious of theirs, and it was so revealing that in fact Google stopped with it because it was really disturbing what the result was. So there are many things happening with this. Another one, in the same page. Yeah. Another one, which is the first artwork I bought, in a digital form. It was around 2000 in New York. I saw this work and I said, okay, I get it and I want it. And it was funny because for the first time I was going home carrying a computer with a software loaded on the computer. So I said to myself, okay, this is weird because is this art? I really asked myself, is this art? In 2000, buying a computer as a work of art. But for me, it is so obvious it is a work of art because what is it? The artist is again going on the internet and taking the feeds of news that you see at the bottom of CNN, CNBC, and all the things, you know, all the news coming through in a ribbon. What he does is transforming it, morphing it, is using the way, how do you call it, the shape of the letters, the typography. He's using the typography of Coca-Cola, and he's projecting those live news on a can of Coca-Cola. Simple, effective art, because he's just talking about the entertainization of news. You know, the way that news become entertaining, the way they are presented, the way they are, and you know, talking about CNN, which is something that you think always existed but didn't exist in the 90s. So I found, you know, and it's turning like this, and it's giving the real news, like a jet passed above the laguna in Venice or whatever, or Trump dumped his Melania or whatever, or anything can happen, or the Pope has been shot, or anything else. So it goes like this. So art or no art?
And you said also that it was very important that the collection can be understood, and in that way you created, I think, European art tours. So can you tell us more about?
Yes, that will be another thing. I'll keep it for the end. European art tour is a kind of an idea that briefly is that when I go to a city, even here, it's really annoying because where do you find the info about what's going on in the city? And most of the time you go to a gallery, you take a gallery map and you open the gallery map and you take your pen and you say, but the map is badly done, so blah blah blah, and then you arrive at the gallery, it's closed, horrible. So I started doing an app which would be making it possible to go to it's got nothing to do with the thing, it's just helping me of traveling for art a little bit better, a little bit easier.
I have a question. So
Yes.
you're saying as a collector, you know, your approach is about preserving the works of art that you feel reflect our contemporary times and for the next generation. So with digital art, like the work of Christophe, it's sort of already preserved in a way on the internet. Like you said, we could basically have the same thing that you have at home and project it. So what do you see the role of the collector with the type of art that's already in some way preserved and shared for the public? What's the difference between you just collecting it in that sense?
How does the artist do another work? Who pays the artist? You or me? And paying the artist is part of the preservation, you know, it's making it possible. yes, the work exists, the artist did it, he worked a long time, he created it, but if nobody pays for it, is he going to do another one? And if you have the idea of creating a work of art like this and you know you will never sell it because it will be online and so on, are you going to do it, or are you going to be cleaning room at the Danieli or something? I don't know. You know, supporting the artist is part of it, and making it possible. It happens. Another work, another major work I will show you later, or now, is called, what's his name? It's called, it will come back to me with before. That's not before. Anyway, it will come back to me. But another work I bought is, I bought this work, and it's a really spectacular work, absolutely amazing. But the artist came to me and said, okay, can you buy it from me like almost half the price that is the gallery price, because I need the money to do other works. So I have the work, but he needs the money to keep producing. Very often that is what an artist does, is trying to find a way of continuing. And supporting them in those moments is part of the thing. Even whether the works is, and that's the thing, is that because their artist is not well known, maybe it's not a good investment in some way. But I think that whatever happens, it is an important work to preserve. Another works I bought is this one, in the digital fields. So you must imagine a table. It's a big table, like a four people table, and on top of it there is a projector, and the projector, and on the table there is a Game Boy, an old Game Boy, split up, broken. And what the artist does is this. He's telling a story about, see, it's quite amazing. Huh? So that's the Game Boy, the pieces, and you see that he's aiming for those things to create events. Kind of the sea covering, so he's using those graphics, you see, so suddenly it's projected on. So he's using the graphics coming from the game, but he's mixing them in a movie, which is projecting on the thing. You see it's all the characters from the Game Boy coming out of the Game Boy. Because whether you like it or not, those games is something new. It is in our culture. You know, people are living with it. As you heard last week, it was admitted by the World Health Organization to be an addiction. So I never did it, but there are guys just going home and just thinking, I want to play. And it's quite beautiful as well. So you see what I mean with digital art, because when you see this, you see, okay, this is related to the time we are living, and it is really representing, and it's also visually interesting, and it's making a comment. And again, then you say, yeah, but it's too visual. You know, some people, they really love dry conceptual art. You know, something you need 1 hour explanation, and you see just one line. Okay, and what? You know, you need a little bit the attraction, and that's what I mean. You put this in any exhibition room, people will just congregate with on that thing at one point or another.
So you collect conceptual art, but at the same time, it's still like you are attached to visuals and to aesthetic.
Yes.
Right?
Yes, because.
the aesthetics of moving images, digital, moving.
Yeah, no, in anything. I show some works later, but it's about.
I'm just wondering about this in relation to aesthetics of painting or your.
Yeah, so again, you know, for me, in a way, it's what we've seen with that Game Boy thing is a painting. Except the painting is dead today. It's dead. It's there on the wall. It's nice. I mean, it has been done for 2,000 years. But why, if we do painting with this? Because except it's a moving painting. It's changing. But what I don't like is I know that, for example, everybody is super fan of the new David Hockney that is painting on his iPad. But he's still painting. It's nothing new. It's just using another tool, but it's nothing new. So I don't like them because it's just. And when I see some guys that are doing using screen and doing paintings, it's just using another tool. What I really like is that thing we described yesterday. When you have artificial intelligence painting without human intervention, then I say, that's interesting. You know, I have a work by an artist, I forgot his name. It's Saturday morning for everyone. So he's Swedish, and what he did, he took the last 5 years of catalog of Philips auction house, and he took all the works in the catalog that were produced in the last 3 years and sold. So he created metadata about them, he put them in a computer, and he pushed on the button, and the computer told him, do this work of art. And the artist did the work of art that the machine was telling him. And the work I acquired is a plastic pot. At the bottom of the pot there is a screen covered with glass. It's covered with water, and in the water I must put a soap, you know, a real soap, that is slowly diluting, making the water a bit non-transparent. So you're asking me, what is it? I have no clue. Nobody knows. Just the computer said, this is what he's selling. Jonas Lunds is the name. Jonas Lunds. So again, you know, it's interesting because here there's the machine. What if the machine takes over? What is the difference between artist and the machine? And that's what I like as a discussion.
So the process of getting to that work is what interested you in this acquiring this work?
Yeah, the comment about it, the comment about what the role of the artist today vis-à-vis the machine. And what is interesting is that you are not aware of it at all, I'm sure, but you know, actually now it exists some commission discussing whether we should include ethics in any artificial intelligence program. Because, you know, it's funny, but a movie like Terminator is 30 years old. But they were saying, what about the machines? And the same as with Matrix and the whole thing. But today, the Google engineer made a strike, as you know it, because Google collaborated with the Ministry of Defense of the United States to work on automatic weapons. It exists today, weapons that maybe it will be a mechanical soldier that will be going on the battlefield. No kidding. So again, why do I fucking care about a skull on a painting, on an abstract when we can speak about this, okay? And in a way which is visually interesting. Because yes, visually interesting. Then what about the visually interesting? Because again, I respect the people that don't need the visual interesting. And then again, I ask myself, why is it? You know, then I realize that some of my favorite part of the world are Latin America, the Middle East in some way. Why? Because people are warm. When in Europe they are pretty cold. I mean, here you say hello. So no, I have a physical sensuality. So I love to hug like a Mexican and so on. So, which is sometimes a bit embarrassing for kind of Scandinavian. Someone told me, like, I think it was Finnish, the finish, they kind of moving back. You know, they wanted to say hi like this. So it's interesting. So it is part of, it is where my personality gets in the collection, is that I want something which is visually interesting, which is for me linked to sensuality. And some people are like this, and they say vous to their sons and their dogs, and they say, "Will you come to walk with me, dog?" Something like this. No, I'm not like this. So everybody's got their taste, and that's where the personality of the collector gets in at one point.
So what about, we briefly spoke about paintings yesterday when we were in the Grassi. Is there, you just said as well, painting is dead, but what if the paintings have a concept, a strong concept, like we could apply this to your feelings towards photography and collecting photography? Because painting is also a way to document.
Yeah. Now the answer is pretty obvious. After 4 hours or 5 hours together, it's pretty obvious. Because there is a contradiction in the art. We've seen it written very well by different people. Normally an artist wants to question the status quo, or even question the thing we see and we don't see anymore. Even it can be shopping, it can be consumption, it can be hugging your children, it can be anything, okay? It can be politics, religion, sex, it can be anything. So an artist wants to draw attention to something which is in the system. When the people buying it are mostly part of the establishment who have all interest that everything stays the same, okay? So that's a little bit a caricature of what the art world and the art market is. So for something unknown to me, I'm wondering, because I don't know this answer, maybe someone can help me. Again, I was not the one saying it, but Barbara Kruger recently in a tweet, I repeated, she said, I don't know why any traces of paint or anything else on a canvas is considered art. When whatever I do, I have to justify, but this is not advertising, for example, in the case of Barbara Kruger. So there is something in society which makes that any trace of painting on a canvas is art. When maybe it is not, because it's just rubbish drawing. It means nothing. It has no value in terms of art.
But what if there is a concept?
Well, I get there. So we have this fact that the art consuming class consider that any form of painting is art. So they absorb it in that sense, okay? And for them, in a way, whether there is a concept or no concept, they really don't care so much. So what I see, me as an art observer for a very, very long time, is that, and for me at the moment, it's disgusting. Is every artist, even photographer, sculptor, anything, right now is painting. Because you want to make a living. You know, I see it, even Jenny Holzer, you know Jenny Holzer? She's been doing LCD things in the 1980s, super, it was extremely revolutionary. Now she does painting. Paul McCarthy, he did painting for House and Weird, okay? So, not speaking about Jeff Koons, who did it before, but everybody's doing painting because everybody wants to go to the cash machine. So, maybe hidden in there is a good artist expressing something with painting. The problem is he will be taken over by the flow of anything else, and he will still be chosen because he will be matching the sofa or matching the kind of the impression that the guy want to give. Because now you can even have, we're speaking about fashion, I think it's, right now it's Gucci getting extremely funky with a lot of colors and tags and everything, because that's the fashion. So you can even be very, we've seen yesterday Albert Erlen, so you can have the brand and the things and it can be anything else, but it's still something that they will the market will absorb and will speculate that this is, and in the end, nobody will ever care about what the idea behind this painting is. When you have something in the middle of your living room, and which is kind of a strange thing like this, I mean, you say, what is it? I mean, you need to get involved with it in a way or another to express something. So even if they are good painters, and maybe they are, is that I prefer to take care of the one that nobody knows, nobody wants.
So is it in the end more an adversity against the trend? So
Sure.
that it's the painting is too market conform, that you say I'm not collecting painting?
Sure.
But let's example, so Francis Bacon,
Everybody,
in a room is very strong.
Everybody's doing me the same shit. Everybody says, oh yeah, but Francis Bacon and Philippe Guston, of course I love Bacon and Guston. I'm talking about producing painting in 2018. Okay? And then, again, try, anybody here in the room tells me a painter who started painting in 1990, because of course Hockney is painting, Richter is painting, so okay, you can still try to involve them, but someone who started being an artist in the 1990s, starting from the 1990s, who's a painter and who will be in art history? Try. Anybody? I mean, then you have the German, you know, the guys painting like a little bit like the Russian did, what's his name? With Hagen and Arts, also $1 million. Neo Rauch. Okay, it was hot in the 1990s because he was painting in a kind of a realistic way from the East Germany. He's gone. You see any Neo Rauch anywhere? He's gone. So anybody write me on Twitter or send me an email. Oh yeah, you know, I found a guy from the 1990s as a painter who will make art history. I have not found that. So.
Because you're saying basically the static quality of painting as a medium is not reflective of like the whole lifestyle and
the world.
And as you said, like the piece you showed us with the on the table, it pushes you to engage actually with the work and with all of its dimension. But with painting, I guess the way of looking at it, we still look at it the same way people in history looked at it.
I think so. This is but again, I'm just a mortal, so I'm maybe totally wrong.
What if you're a female Muslim painter whose only access to being put into museums is... Okay.
You're right. You're totally right. I buy it, and I bought it. So if I go to Africa or I was in Dhaka in Bangladesh in February, of course, because it makes sense, because that's the way of expressing themselves, and it's a different time frame. And you're perfectly right. Good questions. And so I'm lying painting, but don't say it to anyone. So. And I'm considering now to buy work. I was in Riga, and there's a guy painting from, I don't remember, Georgia or something. He's making such a strange mix between kind of iconograph images, but talking about atomic bomb and stuff like this in a very, very contemporary way. And I was tempted. I was tempted to buy it. But you're right. And again, you know, I'm playing here a little bit the buffoon, where you can confront yourself, but in reality, as you see, there are contradictions, and the reality is more complex than what I'm explaining. But and you are right about the facts, because again, I told you, art cost me a lot of money. It's saving me some money on airline tickets to get to Venice and sometimes hotel rooms, but it saved me also a lot of money in terms of psychoanalysis. Serious. When you do it really fully and you're questioning yourself all the time, you're learning a lot about yourself. And in a way, it's the same for you. You know, again, if you get really involved in art, ask yourself why, and why you like this, why you don't like this, why you feel like this, and that's why I was asking you, and we get to this about why you want to get involved in art. It's very important for you to ask yourself. So one thing I really realized, but then I realized it from other sides, is that I'm deeply contrarian. So, and if you look at the definition on Wikipedia, you say contrarian is always the guy that wants to go against the trends. So I always said, you know, sometimes, you know, you walk in the street and someone says, oh, do you want to try my new mayonnaise or something? You know, it's kind of this. I said, don't choose me because I will never help you because I will be the only one choosing the wrong one. So, and any blockbuster movie, whatever good it is, when it reaches $1 billion, I cannot watch it because I don't want. You know, La La Land, I had to be on a plane with nothing else to watch on that screen to watch it after 5 years. And it's not that bad, but it's just, I don't want to watch something that everybody's watching. So that's my weakness, and I learned about it. So what is your weakness, and make a strength out of it. Because that's true. Sometimes I say, you know, why art? Because I have no background of arts, nothing. I mean, my parents were never interested. I have no art history in my curriculum. I'm coming from finance and mathematics and science. Why the hell art? Again, so I don't want to get too personal and trying like Oprah Winter stuff, which is entertaining, but it's not the point. Is that you know, for whatever reason in my past, I'm a strange mix of ultra rationality and emotionality. So when you mix them together, sometimes it's not easy to make it work in society. For example, in finance, as you see, sometimes someone came to one of my presentations and said, I didn't know you were Marxist, but I'm working in Wall Street, so how do you manage the thing? And it's true, you know. When I was in New York in 2008, I was at the core of the crisis, the financial crisis. It happened, the tsunami happened in my market, so I saw it happening. And I said, I was out before because I said, this is not normal. I mean, I am making 50 times more than a doctor. For what? I mean, I'm just having one phone here and one phone there, and I say, I buy and I sell. That's all I'm doing. I'm producing nothing for the society or for the world or anything. And for this, I'm getting 50 times more than a doctor. So I was aware. So you can be playing the role, but I still enjoy it because it's fantastic. I mean, you make tons of money and you don't work so much. So why not? I mean, if you can do it, do it. And that's why I always recommend, if you're more or less smart in finance, do finance and spend the money in art. And not, because sometimes people ask me, you know so much in art, why don't you open a gallery? And I said, no way, no way. It's suicide, commercially and economically and stuff. So I prefer to make money in finance, and I adore it, and then I spend it in art, which is my way of redeeming myself, maybe. I don't know. But it's but in, you know, art is a very good mix where I can express my rationality, and that's what people like to hear from me, that I'm able to kind of dissecate those very big trends with my way of looking at finance, but I'm still able to inject the emotionality that is necessary to be good in art. And that's why, you know, even Pinot, I don't know him personally, I've been sitting at the same table with him, it's so clear, he's the same mix. You know, this guy is a self-made man, studied as I said it, a nail maker in Brittany and buying stuff from his father and his parents. But inside him, he's got that emotionality, and the difficulty is to transmit it to the next generation, because his son is, of course, the son of, which is always a difficult situation to be in. And he doesn't have that kind of drive that makes that. I was reading an article in Le Monde last night about a journalist following Pinot 1 week in New York, looking at galleries and at the studio and everything. I mean, the effort he's able to make is so enormous that, I mean, and the amount of art that I see or that he sees, and that gives us an edge, because we see so much more than any of you, that we have a big advantage. And not because we can afford it is because we're doing it. I mean, we're doing it 12 hours a day. When we start doing it, it's really 12 hours a day. And I challenge any of you of following us during one day of a biennial, or even in Venice. Try to follow us. I can tell you, it's really something. But that's the drive. So mixing both then makes a good collector. And then we get to what Sandro was saying. It's true that I said many times that collectors and artists are two sides of the same coin. And I would say good curators as well. Again, I put good curators as, for me, virtual collectors. If you are considering yourself as virtual collectors, you know, Massimiliano Gioni, all those guys, Caroline Borgakiev and so on, they are in fact collectors. That mean that they have their artists they like, and they kind of recycling them all the time. You know, Massimiliano Gioni is doing Thomas Byerley again at the new museum after having done it at Documenta, after having done it at the Venice Biennale. So he's recycling. So he's kind of, you know, a good curator. Arad Zeman is very well known. He was always working with the same kind of group of artists. So you as a curator, and it's also a danger, is that you must renew your stock. You know, you must keep searching and renewing, otherwise you become also static and you become, yeah, it's not really interesting anymore. And that's why Bonami is in a way dead, because he's not renewing anything. It's just the same Queens and Mauricio Catalan, and you just can't talk about this all day long. So that's the thing. So two sides of the same coin. Why? Because for me, a good artist is someone who is able to absorb the energy of the world. What's going on around you? You know, the way the millennials are behaving. I still don't understand the millennials, because as you don't know it, or you know it, but you are a specific category of sociology that is studied because you are special. You are very weird. I mean, and I see it, and it's even in the way of integrating you in the working environment. People are wondering, can we integrate millennials in the work environment? Because when we tell them do this, they say, why should I do this? Because I tell you. And then you tell that to a millennial and say, fuck yourself. When we were told to obey, I mean, you tell me to do this, I'll do it. Because why? Because you're the boss. So.
But you always ask why.
Now I do, so that's why I'm still young. But no, I'm kidding. But it's true. So whatever it is important to you know, a good artist is absorbing the energies. What's going on? Consumption society, television, internet, religion, relationship to men and women, because it's also changing dramatically. And he's transforming it. He's asking himself. He doesn't know exactly what he feels, but he creates a work of art from that feeling. And like a good writer, he's just exposing new ideas with this work of art.
Another metaphor, so that's
yeah,
right.
I will finish the other side. I tell you, because that's the artist. So the artist is just projecting something. If he's really good, he's talking to you about ecology or internet at a time when you don't even see the problem. You know, you don't even see the problem of artificial intelligence. So you say, what is he talking about? I don't even know. And so this guy will be having a tough time for a very long time. So I call them broker emitter. You know, like a radio emitter. They send waves, but you don't hear anything. You know, I love those things with the phones where supposedly only the millennials were hearing the ringing and the teachers were not hearing. I never know whether it works or not, but it was something. So it's kind of sending the waves. At the other side, there is the majority of people don't hear what the artist says, except a few broken receptors. You know, the guys also a bit weird in their way of thinking, and they hear what the guy want to say. And that's the good collector. So the good artist needs the good collector, and the good collector needs the good artist. And they're two sides of the same coin, because sometimes they meet, sometimes they never meet. And the artist, as I said earlier, the collector, as I said earlier, is allowing the artist to keep working until maybe more people and maybe probably not when he's alive, but probably the majority of people will understand what he's talking about. It can take 5 years, 10 years, 30 years, 50 years. And that's why they're a little bit things, but you wanted to say something.
No, I just wanted to precise because it sounded so, it's absorbing energy, transforming energy. It's also, I like very much the metaphor also of a broken transmitter. So it's a social handicap also. It's also, let's say, it's a trauma. It can be some kind of debolezza, you said it in English. Weakness that then becomes on the other side also a weapon, if you want, or this capacity to see in advance, to be, or maybe also to see social developments 10 years or 15 years before they are happening. So on the one hand, it's of course absorbing energy, but on the other side, it's also a very big kind of fragility.
And in everything, there's a good thing and a bad thing. Really, always remember, in anything bad happening to you, there's a good side. Anything. And anything good happening to you, there's always a bad side. So just be aware of that. And it's the same with, with the art. The art, as I said, allows you to maybe make something good of what you are. That strange hybrids that maybe you are or not. And that's why I come back to my recommendation about, being a good collector or being a good creator. Are you curious and are you open to experimentation? If you are not, ask yourself whether you're making the right career, because this is what will be necessary: curious and a sense of experimentation. So, and of course I'm ultra, but it's true that I often say as well in my comments, I've never met a good artist who is normal, who is not a broken personality. And you dig deeper, and there's been abuse, there's been dead parents, alcohol. And sometimes I was provocative in schools I was speaking to. I said, first year of art school, rather than having art history, you should have gangbang raping or something like this, to make sure you have something to remember or to think. So because you need to have very strong events to kind of unlock that thing. If you have two normal life, and it's the same with collectors. Sometimes I see people and they come to me and they visit the collection and they like it and they want to get involved. And I said, you are too normal. You cannot get there. And it's not that it's not negative. It's not. In a way, they're happy because they're super happy with the simple way they do. And it's horrible because it's again the blue pill and red pill is that when you're opening that door, you will never sleep in peace at night anymore. So good things, bad things, it's moving all the time. But and I can tell you that I know hundreds of major collectors, and none of them is normal. None of them. Give me a name. I said Pinot, but Arnaud, even if he's not really a collector, and Patricia is also something special. Yeah.
Yeah, I hear your admiration.
I'm sorry for the big provocation, because this is not politically correct anymore. So when I said it 10 years ago, it was.
No, it's.
No, just
never
a caricature.
Your admiration or identification maybe with Pinot, but I wanted to hear from you your impressions from the exhibition we saw yesterday.
I didn't like it at all, very clearly. Does it mean that everything he does is great? No. No. And again, I spoke about discipline. We're in Italy, so I hope you visited the Maramotti collection. Did you all visit? So no, there's a lot of foreigners here, but at one point you have to visit the Maramotti collection.
So every year with the course, we visit the Maramotti collection.
Again, if you look at the collection, you see, and it's the same always with the market. You know a nice bar. A nice bar in Venice. The cool, young, good people, they go. And then after 6 months, it's all the tourists because it's appearing in travel guide and everything, and it's over. Okay. collecting is a little bit going through the same phase. Is that when you are under the radar, I can walk around no problem. I can go and see whatever I want. When you are growing, suddenly the big galleries are after you. So if you go to Maramotti, again, critically, because stay critical. Never believe what your eyes telling you. Never believe your eyes. You need to process with your brain and saying, you know, maybe what I see is influenced by what I know already. So I need to shape it up in any way. So you go to Maramotti and you look at the collection. You see super brilliant, 50s, 60s, 70s, the Buri, the everything, the Uncini. Oh. Then we arrive in the 2000. And then at the time, Max Mara, Maramotti was very well known. So I know how the process. You get invited at Gagosian dinner, Hauser and Weird dinner, and I know those collectors. You cannot escape the grasp of the market anymore. Because everybody is on your back, you have 5 people there, you cannot walk in anywhere without people saying, hi, I know what it is. So you are absorbed by the market. And then I realized that what they bought was what the gallery was showing them, what the gallery was pushing them. And in a way, when you are in the environment, you become manipulated by it. Like the same way as, you know, seeing those new Gucci thing at the first time, those pinky jacket with, then you say at the beginning, what? And then, you know, you see 60 years old woman wearing them. So you said, because it's absorbed by the, you know, force of hitting you on the head with the same images, you buy them. Because you lose your edge in some way. And it's very clear in many collections, it depends how it goes. But very often, the same with the artists. This is why I like to buy early works of artists. Because it's very funny, because artists sometimes, what is an artist doing? He's got mainly 1, 2, or 3 ideas in his life. If he's a genius, he's got 3. If he's a normal artist, he's got 1. But it's already brilliant to have a brilliant idea, 1 idea, because Mark Zuckerberg had 1 idea, and he made billions with it. So, you know, it is enough. But what an artist does most of the time is he creates something and then he polishes. You see that all the time. He said, oh yeah, but no, I don't know, I didn't know how to process that thing, and now I know, and I found someone who can help me to do this, and so I do it better. And he polishes. You know, he polishes his technique, his painting, his thing, and his gesture, and everything. And he gets into something which is more abstract in some way. Good. What is funny is that when I speak to them, and I know that museum, and you as a curator, sometimes you're going to be having that problem, you say, okay, I would like to have early work from you. And the artist said, no, they're horrible. I see all the imperfection, I see all the things that are not working with them, and they don't want to hear about their older works. And sometimes when you ask an artist still in development to do a retrospective, he says, no. I want to work my works now. I don't want to go back to works I don't like anymore. And me, as a collector, I sometimes have to drag out from the storage the work that they don't want to see anymore, because they don't like it anymore. But in a way, the raw energy is bigger. The idea is clearer. And the work that are really the most interesting are the early works. Because when they are too polished, they're not cool. It's just, and in a way you like the raw energy of this. And so I will show you, for example, I'll give you an example of this now from the collection. Anybody knows David Altmech? Canadian artist. Where do I get my pictures? I'm sorry. Picture of the collection.
I have a more technical and practical question to ask you.
Yeah.
And I saw some, your first purchase is the Nan Godin.
Yes.
And I love her photographies, and I watched her show in Milan last November. I don't know whether you still own it or not.
Wait, the what?
The
Yes.
photo is still, and
I love them.
yeah, I love them. And one day, if I become a curator, I want to borrow. I mean, how can I assess? I mean, how can I borrow your collection? Do you have any criteria, like what kind of exhibition you will?
Okay. So let me finish with that. Maybe I'll come back with this afterwards. So this collection, I don't know how it seems to be by affect particular others. How do I get to the other side? Or the other one? Or I can look here. Okay, so I get to the advantage. I already answered your question. Again, it's pretty clear from what I've said over the last 6 hours that I am a custodian. You know what a custodian is? Custodian is someone keeping something for you when you're not there. Okay? So being a custodian, it is my duty to lend. So oftentimes I have that situation where sometimes I can buy important work from artists, and the artist said, yeah, but I will need this work back to exhibit it. And I always guarantee them, sometime in writing, that they can borrow it whenever they want. Always. You understand? So the works are never mine. The work are always staying yours. So you want them, you can have them. Of course, we check that there's a minimum of preservation quality. I mean, don't bring them in a room where there is full sun and it's pictures. And you have a minimum of insurance that if there is a problem, that thing. But we never refuse the loan. So the works are available. The works are always available for lending. Because it's very clear in what I said. I'm just not owning the things, I'm just preserving them. So you can have them.
Can you share? Do you know other collectors? Are they as generous as you?
I don't know the others.
But you make a choice, for example, you look, for example, if the exhibition is a good exhibition that is in a good place and before, you know, or just you more lend by random.
No, anybody asking me, I will do it. Because it's not me to judge whether I like the exhibition or not the exhibition, whether I like the curator or not. No, it's not my problem. They want the work, and it's the responsibility of the artist. So very often, if the artist is around, I will ask the artist, I mean, is it fine if we lend that to this? But it can also happen that when the artist says no, I do it anyway. So I had a case with Yin Cheng, who's showing at the Louis Vuitton shop here. You have to see this, it's very important.
We're gonna go.
So you have to see this, it's very important. It's digital work, it's also works I have in the collection. And it's kind of creating an environment using modules from video games, architectural program and so on. So he puts everything in an app, and it is random, which means that it's not a video, it's always changing. But it is within a kind of environment which is sometimes pretty dark. So Yen Sheng is very important, but when I bought it, he had no gallery. I saw him in the Lyon Biennial, and I acquired the work from him. It was funny because often the artists are there at the opening of the Biennale. So I loved the work, and I saw the name Yen Sheng, so I implied he was Asian or half Asian in some way. So I looked around and I said, is there someone half Asian in the room? So I saw a guy leaning on the wall and said, are you the artist? He said, yes, I'm the artist. And I bought the work from him, straight. He became an absolute superstar, Louis Vuitton, Serpentine Gallery, Whitney Museum. It's scaring me a little bit because it's going too fast, much too fast. But he's a star now. And so at one point, the Gallery Kinzinger in Vienna asked me, I would like to do a show with the digital part of your collection in Vienna. And I said, okay, we're going to do this and this. And by politeness, I warned all the artists we're going to show those work in Kinzinger, which is a very good location in Vienna. It's a great gallery and great project space. But then the artist is answering through a representative. He said, yeah, but you know, Yen has been so exposed and showing so much recently that we prefer that you don't show the work. So the gallery wrote me and said, so what do? We don't show it? I said, yes, show it. He can sue me if he wants, because it's still my work. I was polite enough, and even if legally it's still his work and we explain with the contract, but I say, sue me if you want to sue me. Which then would be pretty bad for his reputation if he was suing a collector to show his work in a non-commercial environment. Not cool. So, but it's my responsibility to do it. So, but we are lending always. You wanted to ask something earlier. I interrupted you.
Me?
Yes.
I think it was way earlier. Actually, with non-digital work yesterday, you're speaking about how, as a collector, you have this responsibility to preserve the work too, even if it's made out of organic material. So you have to play this kind of in-between role at a certain point where you kind of put your own work into the piece. And I guess, you've answered it along with the importance of the idea is still present and came before you. So.
Yeah, but it's true that it's still a very big problem to do it. Look at this work again. It was a strange work. A French artist. Sorry, the image is pretty small. The artist is reading the newspaper in the morning, and you see a series of news. And in the news, you see this image in front of you, too small. In the newspaper, and you have a girl who is playing with the ball, with her feet. You see she has her feet in the water because there were floods in Brazil somewhere. So he's attracted by this picture, and again, and I'll tell you after what it implies, but then he says, okay, I take my ticket for the Amazon and I'm gonna get there. And I'm gonna find this girl. So he goes there, he gets malaria, he looks for a week or 10 days, eventually finds the girl, and he managed to buy the clothes that she was wearing on the picture. And so the clothes are part of the work, so I get the clothes. So, and this is the picture of, it's a zoom in of the picture that is on the left side. So the thing is, so you get on the left the newspaper, in the middle you have the actual clothes, the physical clothes, and on the right you've got the zooming in of the work. Because it's a process again, you know. And then you say, yeah, but what is it? It's just because the guy is crazy, because it's completely crazy to do that kind of thing. You know, he did it on another way, is that he was looking at a baseball game in the US, and the guy made a home run, and so he said he wanted to find a ball that was, you know, the home run that passed over the things and went into the woods or something like this. So he went there into the US and he found the ball. And you have the ball there, the real ball, but the physical ball. So he said, okay, he's kind of a lunatic because he's a strange guy, but in a way, it opens also, for me, and I don't know for you, but for me, it opens something which is a big subject of my thinking, which is the fake news. Because you never know whether what you see in newspapers is really not real. So by creating a sort of a connection between the newspaper and the reality, it's kind of bringing the thing together, but also making us think about it, okay? So again, it's pretty basic, but it's kind of going deep in many different layers, and physically it's a nice object, because it's a nice work of art. Whether you know about it or you don't know about it, it's still a photograph with this cloth, and when you see them on the wall, even if you don't know what it's about, it's interesting. So that's the kind of things I am interested in. Another artist interesting, you see this thing is pretty weird. What is it? You don't know, it's too far away, but
A bridge on the road.
yeah, but what is it? The drawing? Painting? It is a photography, in fact. And photography of what? Is that you know that there are those games, World of Witchcraft and blah 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 and all those things that are growing organically, but they are growing in a crowd created ways. That means that in a way someone unknown drew this bridge and this road to put it in the game. So there's a programmer somewhere, we don't know where, that did it. And it's what the artist does. He goes in the game, but not to play the game. He wants to take pictures. So he's not looking at the game, he's not looking at anything, he's just taking a picture inside the game by an artist which is unknown because someone had to draw that bridge. But we don't know who. It just. But this is a bridge. And again, we were talking about, then you say, oh, but it's looking like a painting. Yes, sorry man, but this is a very different painting in what it wants to mean. Okay? Because it's a painting from something that does not exist, but exists and has been drawn by an artist, but we don't know who the artist is. You get it? You like it?
Yeah, but actually yesterday you were talking about obvious art, like the art that makes you think, but which message is immediately appearing to you, you know? So here, if you didn't know the story behind, you would think, well, that's boring, that's a boring photography or a boring, you know, painting. But so somehow you need to know the story behind, and so you need to know the artist, or you need to know the concept.
But as you realize, I explained to you in 2 minutes. Again, this is not all because there's many dimensions, but with giving you those 2 minutes, you manage to get there. Okay? There are other words when you need 30 minutes and you still don't understand. Okay? That's where I put the limit. Is that I don't want 30 minutes in a way that I need to have read Kafka linked to
Always read that.
you know, mixed to Trump under the full moon in the second hemisphere on the right. You know, sorry, too much for me. So other words in the collection. That's a funny one as well. Again, I love Latin America because they do things from the object they found. This artist is going to flea markets and she buys those terrible Bambi, but they are embroideries, a lot of them. Okay, what the artist does from there is that she embroidery them, and she then makes the abstract. Okay. It's kind of a recycling. So she starts from this work, this whatever you want to call it, work of art, and then she does a work of art from that thing. So the trace, the kind of the mental trace of the previous one is there. So you see, I'm still conceptual, a bit brainy from that.
Yes, because the image of the center with the famous Bambis is a figurative representation, but the one upstairs is the abstract representation of the Bambis.
With the same thread.
Yeah, with the same thread.
Same artist. It's all the flags of Latin America.
What's his name?
Danieli Canepa.
Canepa.
She's Chilean or something like this. I don't remember. So that's all the flags from Latin America, but rearranged by colors. That's a big installation. It's about all the blocks are blocks of salt from a Bolivian desert, which is the largest reserve of salt. What I didn't know is that salt is the basic ingredient for lithium. And lithium is the only thing that will keep our phone moving, our Tesla moving as well. So nobody cared about that salt, except that now people are fighting like crazy to get access to that salt to be able to produce lithium, which is kind of a bottleneck because we cannot produce enough lithium to feed, as you know, the Tesla 3 is not going out fast enough because they cannot find enough batteries. So in a way, this is kind of a mix between the raw material and the lithium is the yellow liquid. So there's 3 packs of liquid. So this is a pure sculpture because it can be seen as a sculpture, but visually it's a sculpture. Behind there is that mix between the raw material and the results and the product, which is the lithium is in the yellow things and the blocks are there. He's a very good artist, extremely good, called Julien Charrière. He was shown here. Last time at the Greenland or whatever Antarctica pavilion. He did the same here. He's taking electronic components, and when you are melting steel, you see those big things of burning steel. At the top of it, you have also that image, so it's very yellow, but at the top there's some black marks. And in fact, it is the kind of the residues of the iron. And so normally you take it out before pouring the steel. So he takes those kind of ingredients, the things that are left over, and he poured them. He poured on the electronic components. So it's created sort of a rock. Okay, from the leftover, from the iron, so the iron stone giving the metal. So it creates a rock, but inside the rock, and you see it appearing, you see the electronic components. So it's again a kind of a mix between the nature and the electronic components of which we are all depending now. Just remembering us the link that we have to nature. Africa is there as well. I love those African images of things that we've seen yesterday. That's also a work by a super young artist, totally unknown. I bought it for nothing, like 600 euro, I think. She's living in front of the biggest jail that we have in Brussels. And through the window, she sees inside the jail, and she sees it's a female jail. And she sees the woman always the other side. She's free, they are in jail. So at one point she went to the jail, she said, can I go inside? And she started working there in the jail and seeing, and she realized the way they're living and the difficulty that there is. And one of the things they do is that they can make some money to buy some things, some food from the cafeteria or things like that. Except that there's an enormous gap. So in fact, it's written here, pour un coca, for Coca-Cola. So this is the amount of work that the prisoner must produce in terms of hours. So she was marking, all those drawings like this to get one bottle of Coca-Cola, one can of Coca-Cola. So again, you don't know about it. It's a beautiful object. You see it again, and you can, and that's what I don't see. Why should I buy an abstract something like this with no meaning when I can buy the same thing with a meaning? So I prefer to buy the one with a meaning rather than the pretty one we saw yesterday, because there's no meaning there. So I prefer to buy this one, which is also a cool object, and that's about it.
But also the thematic of the work of art is quite paradoxal, because this woman has to work in a jail in order to have a Coca-Cola, but they mostly are in jail for nothing. And it's true that if we go deeper into the Coca-Cola Enterprise and Foundation, some investigations has been done, and the Coca-Cola Enterprise every day kills unionists in Latin America, in India, for instance. So Coca-Cola should be in jail and not the woman. So it's quite paradoxical.
But that's the beauty of the work of art, and that's why I like to bring curators in the collection. Is that I never had that vision, but you can use it if you want to use the work in that context, do it. And that's what's interesting, is that, and it's another big sentence. So after 6 hours with you, and we're gonna end up because at one point we can go on forever, but there's no point. But you will have heard all my favorite formulas, you know, artist and collector, that's two sides of the same coin. Another one that I use very often is an artist creates a word, and a collector or a curator makes the sentence. I mean, what's that? Let's say that you know, walking. The artist creates a work which means walk, to walk. But depending on the context you put it, to walk means something else. And that's what's interesting with the work of art. And I learned that again by practice, is that I had the same work of art coming back in another exhibition. It had a totally different meaning. It was put at another place in the house, it was put in another context, and it was totally different work. The same when I was, you know, I remember first time I saw the retrospective of Richter in MoMA, a long, long time ago, 10, 15 years ago. So, and I was in London when the retrospective arrived at the Tate. So I said, I will not go. Why should I go? Because I saw it already in New York. But I was dragged with some friends. They said, we haven't seen it, come with us. So we go, I go. I said, but this doesn't look like the same exhibition at all. I don't recognize anything. And then eventually I saw it at the Ludwig, and it was again different. So this is why I really realized that the role of an exhibition maker is essential. And it's a very powerful tool. That you can transform completely the whole thing. It's like a makeover thing, you know, this thing where you have a very ugly woman like this, you know, with the hair like this, and then she goes in the specialist and she comes out and all her friends say, wow, is it you? Oh, mommy, oh, you're so beautiful, and so on and so on. So, no bullshit, but you know, a curator can do it. A curator can transform a work, make it good or better, and this is part of the power of the curator, which is dangerous, because very often, you know, it was the blame that was done for the documenta, is that the artists felt instrumentalized by the curators, and that's why now there's a trend of making biennials with only a small number of artists, because if with one work or two works the artist cannot express itself. It's just an instrument in the full language. So it's the same here. The artist create a word, and the curator or the collector can put it in different contexts. So it's interesting what you say, that means that you could take that work and use it in a different context. Anti-Coca-Cola exhibition. And this one is interesting as well. It's from an Iranian artist called Babak Golkar. What he does is, again, I liked that back and forth from reality to non-reality. What he does, he goes and he buys that rope in a do-it-yourself shop, and then he brings it home. He undo the rope, and he replaces it by this rope, which is to the color of the UK. And what he does is that he goes back in the shop and he puts it back there. Which means that someone bought it without knowing it was a work of art, and maybe used it to pack the Christmas gift or whatever. And they never knew it was an artist, did it? And with the rope, he creates an object, a useful object, which are the gloves in this case. So you've got three things: the original rope, the one that has been replaced and disappeared, and you have the object that are there in the real world from that point of view. Any other questions? That's the Goldins. That's the Goldins in the collection. You recognize? Mrs. Korea. You recognize the Goldin? One of her best friends. So anyway, there's quite a few of them. That's a nice one as well. I like teaching me things. I really like to learn. So I didn't know, for example, that you need to put beef bones into porcelain. Did you know that? That you need to have, as one of the components, you put bones, animal bones in the porcelain. Good. Then you're talking about India and Pakistan. One Muslim, one Hindu. And as you know, you cannot kill a cow in India, but you can in Pakistan. So there's a massive illegal trade between Pakistan and India, despite them being enemies, where they get the bones, and the bones are getting into India and used, among other things, for the porcelain making. So the artist Shilpa Gupta, she did those things. It's very beautiful because it's starting from big parts of porcelain to small part of porcelain, in very small part, but it's alluding to that element. Again, if you don't know it, you don't know it. You need the story. But in a way, that's why I realized I like stories. I like stories, you know, and I like to go around the collection and to tell stories. So it's my kick. And some people say, yeah, well, fuck you with your stories. We want something. We want an 800-page book. We don't want a 2-minute story. We want a big thing. So, and that's, you see, and that's the story explained about porcelain.
Any last questions? Last chance? Because Alain is talking to us since more than 6 hours now, together with yesterday. So we have a last thing to ask him, at least, yeah.
Please.
We spoke before a bit about like trends and how you like sometimes to buy things that other people don't buy, or you like to go a bit against the trends. It seems not so much from like the works you've shown now, but more from like the digital, like more digital art you've shown in the start though, that you, maybe that's not like the trend now, but it seems like somehow you're trying to predict, or like you spoke a bit like art history. What will be art history? What will stay in the art history like in 20, 30 years? Will a painting be there? Or maybe this, like for example, we don't talk about artificial intelligence now, but for example in 30 years, if you bought something that has been done in 2018, yes, it might be a trend in 20 years from now. So do you feel like even if you are now against the trends, you're trying to think about like the trend, or what will be relevant in like 30 years time?
Yeah, that's the thing, and that's why if you follow my Twitter things, you see a lot of news about the world. You know, those news about artificial intelligence and that ethic that some scientists say it is really urgent that you put a plug. You know, you remember in Terminator, there's a plug where you cannot shoot a human. But if you don't do it now, when those things are starting working, you know, there maybe will be a machine that will be shooting human. So all those elements are there. So when I'm in front of a work of art, I'm asking, okay, visually, is it okay? Okay, is it appealing to me? Then, is it talking about a subject which I think is relevant about our time? You know, the one about porcelain is in fact about religion, because one side of the border you can, one side of the border you can't, which is the ridiculousness of religion. You know, you move 100 kilometers you can, and move 100 kilometers you cannot. So yes, I'm asking myself those questions, and then I then go for it. What is interesting is that the same way as I spoke about Patricia Sandretto, is that the more you do it for a long time, the more you are leaving the handrail and you dare to do things. When I bought that computer in 2000, I mean, it's really 18 years ago. It was funny because even the gallerist, it was Rona Hoffman from Chicago, she could not explain me the thing, you know, with the Coca-Cola writing. But when I saw it, I said, this is genius. And funnily enough, she hardly knew the name of the artist, Sybren Versteeg. She didn't know exactly how it worked. She didn't know nothing. She just brought it to the Armory show because she thinks it was cool to have. But she sold it to 5 museums, including me. And I remember there was a museum who tried to buy 3 copies immediately, because it's kind of instantaneous of the thing that is reflecting what is important now. Sometimes it happens. And sometimes it's true that another expression I say that I'm not looking for the work, the works are finding me, which is again a little bit the same with the artist and the collectors, that they meet.
It's a little bit Kafka.
I never read Kafka, so that's why. Probably super fascinating, but and so that's yes. I'm thinking about the trend, and it's true that again one of my, and then you will have all my best quote, I think, even the very nasty one about the gang raping. But the last one is I lost it now. What was I talking about? About the artwork finding me, and yeah, I don't remember. Too bad, you better miss it.
Twitter.
Who's not looking will be found.
Yeah, I don't remember what it was, but you know, the process of finding it. So you were asking me about the link to society. Yeah, that link is very. Yes. I remember my quote. That my background is finance, so the most boring thing that people say, okay, yes, finance, art. So what is linking finance and art? What is it? Money. That's what people say.
No, I think also like predicting is a big part of what we do, the finance. Yeah.
Exactly, and that's what I said. That's my quote. So it is the fact that for me, the closest link between my art activities and my finance activities is that both of them are prospective. You know, I'm always, for example, I'll be honest, I bought Facebook at 140 because after the scandal and everything, I knew that whatever happened, nothing will destroy Facebook. So when it dipped down 20%, I said, wow, this is a bargain to buy. Because it will not go away. Well, even if the article was very negative and so on and so on, because I don't use Facebook because I'm so aware how dangerous it is, and I was totally aware of what they were doing with my data. So I'm quite terrified with it. I have no Facebook, no Instagram, just Twitter. And I'm using it very carefully. So it's true, and it's about consumption is the way, you know, the way a supermarket are replaced by a corner market that you have now in the cities. You know, people used to go once a week, do a big shopping thing with frozen food and so on, and now they prefer to go every day. You know, the way that you are consuming is totally different, and then you need 24 hours shop, and you know, automatic distribution thing where you can buy salad or bread from an automatic machine. So this is all the thing that I'm interested in finance. But in fact, when you do it well in art, then you realize that the artist is speaking about something relevant, which is interesting, representing something of today. And that's the interesting mix I'm trying to make in the collection. You're right. Any other question? Enjoy your weekend. I hope you're going to have fun.
Thank you. Me too.
And thank you for listening to me. It was a long walk, but it was a pleasure to share it with you. So.
Thank you very much.
Thank you all for coming.
No, really,
And thank you for Aurora and Sandro for inviting me.
No, thank you for being with us. I mean, it was really, I think it was really fascinating listening to you, even after 6 hours. We would be able to listen more, what are you saying? So really, thank you for your time and for being with us.
I should show you this work again, because just to show you how far you can go in many different things. So this is a diamond, as you see.
There is something with it.
It's another one. This is Japanese, and it's a work I own for 18 years at least. It's from the year 2000. What this wild artist invented, he said, okay, let's imagine that we have it's called Makoto Aida, and he says, okay, what if in the future the only source of protein will be a clone, some object, some source of protein which is not living. It's a clone, so something we reproduce in factories, okay? But this clone, for whatever reason, is looking like a little girl. So this is what we're eating, because it could be anything. That clone could be anything. I mean, and you know that famous movie about Green Soylents, which is an amazing movie from the 70s and 80s, where we were eating our dead. We took out a source of protein. So the artist is going in this direction, and so he's creating all those drawings with.
It's a sign. We have to stop.
I'm just wondering, actually, do you collect? Have you ever collected one of Jill Majid's work?
Yeah, we've been looking at. I like her. I've seen a work about Barragan, the Barragan work.
Yeah.
Sometimes.
Because she's, yeah, I mean, approaching the subject of surveillance, but in a very intimate way, like sort of playing the system. So I was wondering.
Yeah, no, it's someone I've been looking at, but there's so many artists, and honestly, we've got to restrain ourselves. It seems enormous to buy 60 to 80 works a year. It's nothing. When you see, I made once the computation. I think I see probably something like 40,000 artists per year.
Oh, I know why you took this
Wow.
picture out.
Oh, okay. So 40,000, and I buy 60. Can you imagine the terrifying things? You're in front of Net-a-Porter, you see 40,000 things. You're on thing, you can only choose 60. Tough. So anyway, thank you so much. Enjoy your weekend.
Thank
And
you.